Getting close. Stand by on the set. Quiet on the set. Well, here we are. And welcome to GoFor Lunch number 8. It's actually number 9 because we did number 7 twice. But we are going into Independence Week, so this is going to be our Independence Week edition of GoFor Lunch, where we show up every Tuesday at noon to help you make the technology that you have work for you. And of course, our emphasis is on Apple hardware, software, and the things that go with all that. So, this is the 244th 4th of July, Independence Day. Speaking of dates, on June 29th, which was Monday, the iPhone went on sale in 2007. So the iPhone is now a teenager. And in light of what we're going to talk about, the iPhone that you would have used in 2007, we'll pretend this is a 2007 iPhone. The way you used it then has really not changed a whole lot from the way you use the 2019 iPhone today. A lot of cosmetic changes, and certainly a lot of things have been added, but the basic functionality, the way you get to applications, the way you use the phone, things like that, have stayed pretty much the same. So that's kind of a way that Apple works, and they're going to continue to work that way. Last week, the Worldwide Developers Conference was held virtually, with Apple engineers doing presentations over the internet to thousands and thousands of Apple software developers around the world. So we're going to look at some of the things that came out of that. As we mentioned last week, the name of the new operating system is Big Sur. And the significant thing here is that it's now called Mac OS 11. So Mac OS 10 will be ending in the fall when version 11 comes out. And it's been around since 2001. So it's had a long run. And of course, when a software developer changes a numeral, then that's a big deal. So let's look at some of the big deals that are really not big deals. So Apple has done some cosmetic changes on the icons. They look the same. Like, for example, Safari is still going to look like a compass. It's just going to have a little bit of a different look to it. It's going to be a little transparent. So there's going to be some cosmetic changes like that. Again, nothing that's going to throw you off. Let's talk about Messages. Messages is going to look on the Mac more like it looks on the iPhone and iPad. Plus, it is going to have more features on the Mac than it has had before, like it does on iOS. So that'll be nice. So you're probably going to be more likely maybe to use Messages on the Mac than you have been in the past. Safari, our favorite and recommended web browser, is going to be 50% faster than Google Chrome, according to Apple's tests. So that will be nice. They're also going to have a new privacy toolbar. Now, this is really very significant. The toolbar, when a web page comes up, this privacy toolbar will tell you how many web trackers are attached to that website. So it gives you a privacy report with a list of the trackers that have been blocked in the last 30 days. A podcast I listened to this week said they were using the beta of the new operating system. They opened the website to CNN and to Fox News, And in addition to all, the ads that are on, each side of the screen, there was more than 30 trackers tracking whatever you do on the internet. And now with this new privacy toolbar, you'll be able to control that. Another interesting feature of the new Safari will be translations. So you'll be able to translate websites in English, Spanish, Chinese, French, German, Russian, or Brazilian Portuguese. So I guess if you've got Portuguese, you're out of luck. I don't know. So that's real nice. Right now when you need to translate something, you have to go to a third party and copy the text and look at the translation. So that's going to be a good help. Photos. Who doesn't use Photos? So Photos is now going to have more editing tools. There is now a vibrance effect, which will allow you to adjust the intensity of filters and the portrait lighting. There's a retouch tool that is enhanced with machine learning to make your adjustments look better. And there are more tools that you can use to edit videos as well. So I know some of you have used Adobe Photoshop Elements. And so you may not need to do that anymore because actually before now, they have been gradually, since Photos came out several years ago, they've been adding more and more editing tools to Photos. So you don't need to use a third-party app. The problem with Photoshop Elements is they upgrade it every year for $100. So you may not need to do that upgrade. You may be able to do everything you want to do with Photos inside of Photos. Of course, if you're a Photoshop user, that means you're doing more than what Photos can do, and you will probably want to keep using Photoshop or something like Pixelmator, which is a photo editing app for the Mac that you don't have to buy every year, like the Photoshop subscription. Another thing they're doing with Photos is they're providing more context to photos and to videos. So Photos will let you add and edit captions, and through iCloud, those captions will sync back and forth between the Mac and the iPhone. So that's very helpful. Let's talk about Maps, shall we? So Maps have got a lot of changes coming up. They've got some tools there that will help you plan trips. So hopefully that'll mean that you can put in multiple stops, so you can plan your route. And it also, again, they're taking the things that they can do now, you can do now in the Maps on iOS, and they're bringing them over to the Mac, so there'll be more parity there. Another thing is that you can save locations as favorites. So this is something that other mapping programs have done for a while. Now you'll be able to do that in Maps, and you could never do that before on a Mac. Another nice new feature is called Guides. So they give you information about locations. It can be used when you're traveling. They'll only be available for major cities, like actually 4 major cities, London, Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco when they launch. But of course, they'll be adding on to those as time goes by. That was a song cue, but I'm going to ignore it. Route planning is also something that is being added, and it's available whether you're on your bicycle or in your electric car or your non-electric car. So cycling routes will have elevations, so you can find out, if you're in a hilly area, which route has more hills than another one. It also will give you more traffic reports, and, more traffic hazards. The electric vehicle routes for all of you Tesla owners out there and Prius owners. I guess Prius doesn't really need that. Will track your car's charge. So the Maps app will actually interface with your electric car, so it knows the battery condition, and it will use that information to show you the most appropriate charging station. So, and both of these features can be done on your Mac and then sent to your iPhone. So it's a lot easier to plan something like that on a big screen and then just send it to the iPhone that you'd be using in your car as your GPS. Indoor maps. So this is something that's already started, but it's going to increase. They have a feature called Look Around. So you can go into an indoor map, like an airport is the first ones they're doing, I think. And you can look around the airport and find things like restaurants or, things that you want to find in a large building. And also you'll be able to send your estimated time of arrival, your ETA, to friends. Now, I use the Waze map app, and I use that ETA feature a lot. So it'll be nice to have that inside of Apple Maps. So every time they bring out an operating system, the question is, will my Mac work on the new operating system? So here's the scoop. If you have a MacBook, it needs to be a 2015 or later. If you have a MacBook Air, 2013 or later. MacBook Pro, late 2013 or later. Mac Mini, 2014 or later. An iMac, 2014. An iMac Pro, 2017 or later. That's kind of an interesting one. And of course, if you have the multi-$1,000 Mac Pro from 2013 or later, you're in good shape. So that brings up a concept. I call this concept GoFor ROI. So instead of running your Mac into the ground, in other words, keeping it for 5, 7, 10 years until it gets either so very slow that you can, ask for something and then go take a coffee break and hope it'll be done by the time you get back. I have another way of doing that will save you money in the long run. So let's take an example. So I did a little numbers spreadsheet here. So in this example, we have a iMac 27-inch that we bought new in 2017. The specs are 8 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of hard drive, and a 3 gigahertz i15 processor. So the idea here is that you would buy a new Mac every 2.5 years. When you buy it, you put Apple Care on it, which is good for 3 years. So then in 2.5 years, plus or minus, you sell that Mac on eBay. So that price you see on the sheet, $1,600, and that's a conservative price right now, today, on eBay, that people are selling a 2017 iMac with those specs for $1,600. And then you would go out and buy the latest iMac, in this case is a 2019. There's rumors that there might be another one coming out before the end of the year, but that's a rumor. And that would cost you $2,139. So when you get $1,600 for your 2017 Mac and you buy the new one, the difference is only $539. Now, agreed, there are a lot of variables here. One variable would be, I recommend if you buy any new iMac, you buy a solid state drive. I didn't factor that in to this equation, so that would be another probably $200-300 for a 512 megabyte solid state drive to give you more longevity. But as you can see, if you do this every 2.5 years, it is a much lower cost than running your old Mac into the ground, having it come up with things like your Mac can no longer run this program. And I see that sometimes when I'm out in the field visiting you in person. You can't use the latest browsers, and you can't use some programs because they have not supported older Macs. Usually Apple supports Macs that are 4 to 5 years old. So this plan certainly is well within that range. So I forgot to mention to you that maybe came in just before we started that we're going to answer questions at the end. So I could just kind of plow through this, and then we can go back and dissect it through your questions. So if anybody thinks my math is wrong, please let me know, because math is not my strong suit. So that's my Mac ROI plan. So a couple other things that I suggest when you buy a Mac is to put a silicone cover on the keyboard, and that looks a lot like this. So you can see this one has all the shortcuts that many of which I encourage you to use. See, our camera's trying to focus on that. So that again enhances your resale value. You know, of course, you want to keep your Mac clean, and and so it looks good in that 2.5 year time frame. Another thing there, you can buy a refurbished unit, which usually come out within 6 months of the new ones, so you'll save another 15% there. So iPhones and iPods, the Apple Care on those are 2 years, and so you can do the same thing. I buy a new iPhone every 2 years. So again, you could sell it around, say, 20 months. It's still got a few months of Apple Care left on it, so the new buyer is protected. They can buy with confidence either the Mac or the iPhone and know that they'll be protected by Apple for the first few months of its life. So, all right, let's look at some questions here. So, hi, Leslie Ann and Phyllis and Phil and Carolyn. Okay, glad that you watched the Apple presentation. So we did put some short Apple keynote presentations in the GoFor Gazette, our weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday morning. So, but the whole keynote was actually an hour and 45 minutes. So you can certainly. So good question, Ann. Pixelmator is spelled Pixelmator. Pixelmator. And that's one of those programs that will only run on the last couple years of Macs. One of my clients was looking at that the other day, and the Macs that she has will not run Pixelmator. So again, another reason to do the 2.5 year turnaround, so you can run the latest software. Hi, Barbara. Glad that you are listening. So, any questions about what we've covered about the new features coming down the line in September or October? Or any questions about this Mac ROI program that I am planning on doing myself? So, okay, well, let me add a little security note. So actually, Barbara was the one that brought this to my attention. She received an email that was allegedly from a friend of hers, and I'll just kind of summarize this quickly. But the gist of it was that the friend, who was a hacker, actually, imitating or impersonating the friends, ask Barbara and everybody else on that friend's contact list, which had been hacked, to buy a gift card because they were traveling and they would pay them back when they returned. So the scam is that you buy the gift card, then they say, oh, thank you. What's that number on the gift card? You give them the number, which you can just redeem directly to the Apple app stores, and you're out the amount of that gift card, which I think was $200. So be careful about these scams. The grammar in this one was not very good, so grammar is a big tip-off right away. And then, of course, if you see something and in your gut, down here, in your gut, you think, that doesn't sound right, telephone that person that is allegedly sending you that email, ask them if they've sent it, and verify it that way. Okay, so no need to be embarrassed. We live and we learn, and you did the right thing, and you didn't take the bait from the hacker. Okay, Alexis brings up a very good point. So one thing you do have to be aware of, and hopefully in a 2.5-year cycle, everybody will have been caught up. But this last update to Catalina, I did have some clients who didn't heed my advice and not update to Catalina right away. In fact, in most cases, it was somebody in their family who says, oh yeah, go ahead and do it. And then their printer didn't work. So printer manufacturers have been historically slow in updating their printer drivers to a new operating system. It's all caught up now. I haven't had any problems lately with people going to Catalina. So their printers still work when they do that. So that is a good point. So you do have to look at your software. So if you're using some specialized software for graphics, for music, you got to make sure that they are keeping up. And sometimes those developers are slow to update because it's a lot of work for them. So good question, Phil. Yes, you do. Sorry, I'm not putting your questions up here. So do you buy it from Apple or Simutech? Well, that's a tough question. So it's two different programs. The one you buy from Apple, the only difference in a refurbished unit from Apple and a new unit from Apple is you save 15%. Everything else is the same. The warranty is still 1 year, whether it's refurbished or new. So I personally buy all of my new equipment from Apple, not new. I buy them refurbished. And I like to say, this may not make any sense, but I like to say the new ones were assembled in the dark by robots. The refurbished ones were checked over by a human technician in the light. So I like it that way, and I have not had any reason not to do that. So the only thing on the refurbished, again, you have to wait about 6 months. I mean, I bought a 2019 MacBook Pro 16-inch, the latest MacBook Pro, refurbished, and it wasn't even 6 months after they first came out. So you just have to be careful. Now, the only thing about refurbished is that when you see it in the refurbished store, that is one particular unit. That's not a warehouse full of them. Just one guy there, and if you don't buy that one today, it could be gone tomorrow. So you have to be ready to take the leap when you see what you want. You got to grab it because it's only that one specific unit, and tomorrow it could be gone. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap this up. We try to keep these short, but I appreciate your questions. Oh, I didn't finish your question, Philip. So Simutech has their own refurbishing program, and so they back it up. Historically, Simitech hasn't had, I'm sure I couldn't go to Simitech and buy a MacBook Pro 16-inch that's been on, only been out for 3 or 4 months. Theirs tend to be a couple years old, so you're not going to get as new a machine from Simitech, because I think a lot of their machines come off of a lease program from large corporations, and they typically keep them about 3 years and then recycle them. You are welcome, Phil. So remember that all of these are recorded and they are on our YouTube channel. The link for that is always in the Gopher Gazette every Monday morning. If you have any questions, please email me. Again, you can use the addresses in the Gopher Gazette or the telephone number that will appear shortly. If you have any topics that you would like me to cover, I would be happy to cover things that you are interested in. I've got a lot of things in my list, but if it's more pertinent to you, I would love to do those before mine. Also, even in these heightened times, we have masks. I don't know who we is. Me and the mask. We have them. So we can and do and have and are visiting you on site, mask over face, so that nothing gets spread. So please hit the subscribe button, and we're trying to go to 100 subscribers so we can get a better URL that's easy to remember to help you get to those replays on YouTube. So let's see. Yes, Alexis asks, oh, no, you're not chopped liver, Leslie Ann. Did you ask a question, Leslie Ann? I'm looking. Let's see, there you are. Oh, should you buy okay, we'll just pop it up for everybody. Should you buy a new Mac this year, and why buy AppleCare if I have you? Okay, so the reason to buy AppleCare is to give the buyer of your 2.5-year-old machine confidence that they are covered. That's the reason. There also is the off chance reason that something terribly goes wrong with your machine. And there, sometimes there's bugs, sometimes there's hardware problems that don't crop up right away. For example, for 3 years, the keyboards weren't great on the MacBooks. And so people that had AppleCare had their keyboards replaced, some more than once. So that's the other reason to have AppleCare, is for unseen programs, unforeseen circumstances, which could elicit a repair program. Another reason to have AppleCare is if it's a portable device. So if you're on a MacBook, any laptop from Apple, or any iPhone or iPad, I always recommend to get AppleCare, because those little slippery phones and iPads, they can fall out of your hands, and if you just use it once, it almost pays for itself. So there's a rumor that there's a new iMac coming out maybe before Christmas, and we don't know. It's just a rumor. And then Ann said, sorry, I didn't see all these questions. Ann says, is selling on eBay better than selling on It's Worth More? So the answer to that is, selling on eBay, you're going to get more money. Selling on It's Worth More, which is a site that I have used and I've been very happy with, and they did give me the best price of any of the other places that buy used equipment, is there's no hassle. They give you a price. It's going to be lower than what you could sell it on eBay for, but you don't have to do a listing. You don't have to, you still have to ship it, of course. And so either way, just, it's the hassle factor. So do you want to make a little more money with a little more hassle, or have a little less hassle and make a little less money? Okay, so let's see here. I'm just checking all of our questions. And okay, so Alexis asks a very good question. And the question is, so actually iTunes disappeared in Catalina. So they broke up iTunes, which they were just cobbling everything onto iTunes. So they broke up iTunes into music, videos, podcasts, and I can never remember all four of these things. Something else. Anyway, well, actually, the Finder is the fourth thing, because now when you sync your iOS device with your computer, which we recommend, especially before you travel, is a backup to your Mac. So in case you lose your iOS device, you have a current copy of everything that's on it. That's now done in the Finder, starting with Catalina, and of course that'll be the same in Big Sur. So iTunes is gone as of Catalina. So yes, Leslie Ann learned all about it. So there we go. Okay, well, thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate all 13 of you that are here today. So again, subscribe, and the little subscribe button down below. And after you subscribe, if you could hit the little bell, you'll be notified. And of course, you'll be notified in the Gopher Gazette every Monday morning. And I hope that you have a safe and sound Independence Day week. And join us next Tuesday for GoFor Lunch number 9.